Reddit by Reddit recap. r/AskReddit. People who graduated with bad grades, where are you now? Got a job right out of school, working as an engineer. I've been at that same position since around 10 years, and my salary has increased $36,000 a year in that time. I like to think that I'm fairly successful in my role here. My grades suck because I was a shitty student, not because I wasn't smart enough to do well. I've always been incredibly lazy. Graduated high school in the bottom half of my class but got a 1540 on the SAT. Got a mechanical engineering degree from a top 25 engineering school but graduated with a 2.7 GPA, which made it as worthless as an online underwater basket weaving degree. Now I'm an industrial engineer and I'm good at it, because helping other people be lazy and work smarter not harder is the goal of my job. I graduated college with a 2.34 GPA. That's pretty bad. I got a decent job and started a career path. Went back for a master's 15 years later and finished with a 4.0 in grad school. My jobs got progressively better and I'm doing pretty well now. 6-figure salary. I was a solid C student in high school. Went to college for 4 years but didn't graduate. I now own an advertising billboard company. I dropped out of school pretty young. Technically I was still enrolled. I just didn't attend. Troubled home life and undiagnosed autism. I adored learning and would have been really happy to just be assigned a room and books so I could just learn in my own way without being overwhelmed by the noise and social elements of classroom learning. I always wanted to be a social scientist and had an innate fascination with the subject. At the time, autism in girls wasn't really a thing, so when I had panic attacks in class and begged to learn in a quiet space on my own, everyone just thought I was being difficult. My school had a really ducked up way of looking at things. The social aspect of school was considered so important that they'd rather a kid just not attend school entirely than miss out of any of it. They didn't say that this is how they viewed it, but that was the outcome. Ultimately, so I slipped through the net like so many people with undiagnosed autism and basically didn't attend school from the ages of 13-16 save for an odd school meeting. But I kept pursuing education after school, with several more instances of dropping out, and found that college and eventually university were much more manageable. I graduated with a first-class honors undergraduate degree and an outstanding achievement award for attaining the highest grade on my degree. I'm now 29 and completing my master's in social research at a London university and will be applying to PhD program soon. Sometimes I get upset at all of the lost time. Maybe if I was diagnosed as a kid and accommodations were made, I'd be finishing up my PhD now. But on the other hand, I've been on a different kind of adventure and I've learned a lot about managing and enjoying life with autism. I'm probably more well-rounded now than I would have been if my life followed an arbitrary plan. And hey, turns out secondary school education isn't always destiny in the UK, so that's pretty cool. For any school kids browsing these comments, remember that the evidence will be skewed by the fact that people commenting here actively want to comment. There are obviously exceptions to rules, but do your ducking homework. Reddit is not a good metric for how you should live your life. Didn't officially even graduate due to not being able to pass the math tax test, Texas exit testing. Ended up getting my diploma from a private school which had some weird loophole. Anyways, I make almost 6 figures now with a really good job which I have a love-hate relationship with. It's not about grades. It's about networking and who you know. I didn't spend a dime on college either. Construction superintendent. Upper 6 figures. 9th grade education. Screw you, Mrs. McCurdy. Do you mean upper 6 figures as in close to 7 figures? Oof, I wish. Just a little shy of 200k. Chief engineer of a hotel. 6-figure salary. My grades were barely passing. In fact, I wasn't going to graduate, but my math teacher said if I washed his boat he would pass me. I washed that boat sparkling clean. I got a few A's in high school, mostly B's and C's, a couple D's over the 4 years, and failed one class. I flunked out of university. I don't think I passed a single course in my last semester there. I lived in a couple shitty apartments, worked in a couple shitty call centers, drank shitty alcohol, and hung out with shitty people. The only positive thing in my life was my cat. Eventually I got tired of everything being shitty. I called up my parents and they agreed to let me move back into their place to go to college. I went back to school at 26, graduated at 27 with AS, and got hired in my field before I technically finished my course. I'm 31 now. I live with my partner. We're getting married whenever we get around to it. We have 2 kids and bought a house in 2018. My cat is no longer the only good thing in my life, though some days he's definitely my favorite child. Bad grades aren't really the thing that makes or breaks a life. It's the passivity, the lack of motivation, that causes those bad grades that'll give you a hard time later in life. The focus needs to be less on the letter on your report card and more on the skills you need to get there. If you fail 11th grade ancient history, it's not going to ruin your life. If you spend your days doing absolutely nothing and never develop the skills you need to get out of bed in the morning and go to school work, you're going to be in for a rough time. Business owner. Don't read too much into that. Luck played an enormous role in this stupid journey of mine, and ducking hell did I luck out. Some of you are walking around with dong all because I got your luck. Give it back. I need it. I was a below average student. Never really got anything higher than a C in most of the important classes. Looking back now, it's a miracle that I even graduated because I rarely did my homework. Went to a trade school right after HS, but not doing anything related to what I studied in trade school. Currently married, working in IT. Remember, most people commenting here are the exception, not the rule. Pay attention in school and don't think that because a few Reddit users were able to make something out of themselves, that's how it'll be. I know quite a few people who were in a similar position in HS and still struggle to this day. I'm a professor actually. I was a C student all through high school and university. I dropped out and worked and traveled around for a while, trying to find what I wanted to do. When I went back for my BA, I found a new love for learning. Went and did my master's and PhD soon after that, and then landed a gig teaching a lot of kids that were like me and even more that were far better in school. Little do they know, personally I'm glad I was a crap student. It helps me empathize with a wide range of students and meet them where they are. Grades and intellect, they're a reflection of motivation, perhaps, but not necessarily understanding, creativity, conceptualization or critical thought. I graduated from college with a 2.13 cumulative GPA. My goal in college was just to get a degree, so I did. If that was all I wanted to do, so be it. That may be fine and I would never see any kind of karma for that. However, 10 years later, 2018, I decided I wanted to go back and get a master's degree to qualify me for a career change. I had a terrible time applying for grad school because a lot of them required a 3.0 undergrad cumulative GPA. I was denied time and time again. Finally, I wrote an appeal letter to the Dean of Admissions explaining why he should let me into his school. Reasons included things like the fact that my priorities have changed. I know I was a poor student then, but I am now paying my own way through grad school to provide for my family. Not the same person I was, etc. They let me in, and I graduated in May with a 3.65 grad cumulative GPA. Couldn't be prouder. It's been a ton of work, but don't feel like being a bad undergrad or high school student should limit you. I did quite poorly in high school, took an extra year, and got into a mediocre university in Canada. Continued to give zero ducks. Was doing so poorly I was required to withdraw for 1 year without being allowed to attend any university. Spent the year at a college. Came back with a little more motivation. Ended up graduating with a 2.6 GPA. Was taken on by an abusive graduate supervisor and got my Master of Sciences. Ate some shit, but it was worth it. Now I work at a hospital doing research at a pretty decent pay rate. Just bought a house in Toronto with my so. Not doing too shabby. Never give up. It's your character that gets you ahead. School was never my thing. Was always bored in class. Hated lectures. Was good with anything hands-on related, automotive, cosmetology, gym, and any labs in the sciences. I actually failed my religion class in grade 12. On purpose though. Overall grades were usually between D+ to B. Dropped out of college after finishing 1 semester. Started working full-time right away. Went between a few different jobs. Currently been with the same company for over 2 years. In the construction sector. I bought a condo by the age of 22, and 2 years later I'm still there, happily living it up all by myself. I paid off my first car, and traded in that car for a brand new SUV. I also have a weekend job, paid in cash. I make my own hours and can choose if I even want to go or not. It's great. This summer I'm taking a month off to travel with my best friend. I still have to save for it, but I'm not at all struggling to get by. Life is good, but I sure as hell got lucky with my situation. If it wasn't for who I know, then I'm sure I'd still be waiting tables. I'm an underground miner. The work is extremely physical in temperatures exceeding 32°C, but it allows someone like me to make 120k plus per year without education. So the old "you're going to end up working in a goddamn mine if you don't pull these grades up" ended up coming true, but with an unexpectedly high compensation. Not what was asked, but alternatively I graduated with good grades. I've dropped out of 3 different programs, back in school for the 4th time, barely passing, still living with my parents and have no idea what I am going to do after I graduate from my 1-year program. That literally doesn't open any doors of opportunity for me. Database analyst, doing a bunch of SQL and SSRS reporting amongst other things, unless by graduated you mean university, which I never went to. Best comment of the day. I always liked the Gundam anime. It taught me at a young age the importance of bagasse vehicles. At the age of 15 I started dumpster diving for money to pay driving school. As soon as I got my license I got a job at Pizza Hut doing delivery. Bought a Honda Accord, took it apart as best I could, put it back together. I took jobs with apps like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, worked all day and night. Needless to say my grades suffered. The money I made paid rent and got me a Class A license at 18. I dropped out of high school grade 11 at the time. With all the money I made I said I might as well get my JED. I moved out and paid for a hostel. I mostly did trips out of state and slept on the road, so I didn't need a proper apartment. 3 years later at age 21 I got my mom out of the mobile home, owned 6 cars, 2 tractor trailers, a boat, got my degree in bussiness to start a small delivery company. But I did settle down, and my kid just started elementary. I can't tell you how great it feels to drop him off in the biggest heavy rig I have and sound the horn for no reason, just to be extra. I work for the city bus now and FedEx every season. I even fix cars on the side. I just had a passion and did whatever it took to achieve it. High school was boring, and honestly everything you need to learn is in grade 10. A group of mothers used to brag and say their kids were going to college and tell my mom she was a bad mother, and I was partying and doing drugs at the time, so I wasn't always on good terms with her. Now all their kids dropped out and live with their parents, claiming college was hard. I wouldn't even call myself successful, yet I want to get a license to pilot a plane. That is next. Never looked back, no regrets.